construct and find the centroid in our triangle. Again, a random drawn triangle. Our medians are what we need to create. A median is a segment from the vertex of a triangle to the opposite side's midpoint. So in order to find the midpoint of each segment, we have to use the perpendicular bisector construction. Now we're not going to connect all the points, but we are going to mark the midpoint that it would cross. So if I want to find the perpendicular bisector to AC, remember we have to create an X above and below from each endpoint. You can see that right here and right here are our two X marks the spots. But what I'm not going to do is connect the dots like I would if I wanted a perpendicular bisector. I am just going to mark the midpoint. And in doing so, we'll just put a little mark here, and here's our midpoint. We'll call it X. When I want to draw the median, we connect the vertex to the midpoint. So from B to X is now our median. And we'll put our tick marks here to show that each side is congruent. We have to do the same thing to each side. So now we'll do the perpendicular bisector construction for BC. Again, open up your compass to more than half. Doesn't have to be exact, but more than half. And on either side of BC, now I know some of us have trouble understanding, I talk about above and below, but imagine if I was drawing the median, my line would go in this direction. So I need an X on this side and on this side. So kind of imagine where that would go and make sure your arc is big enough on either side. Don't adjust your compass, but create your X. Now you're going to have to look really close just because the X is right down here. So I'm going to line up the two X's, and I'm going to again mark my midpoint with just a dot. And now when we create our median, we go from the vertex to the midpoint. And we want to line that up as best as possible. Try to take your time. We don't want too much human error involved. And again, on either side here should be congruent. Our last one is for AB. We want to, again, open more than half. Again, our median is going to come from this direction. So when we talk about our arcs above and below, one on this side, one down here. So we'll create our X here and here. Go to B, finish off the X here and here. So when I line up, our X marks the spot. Mark your midpoint. And we'll label this one Y, that one Z. And when we draw our median, we connect the vertex to the midpoint. And each of these are now congruent. And what we find is directly in the middle is our centroid. Now remember, our centroid holds properties, and it's 2/3 of the median. So for instance, if this is 14, this is 7, because the entire length of BX is 21. So 2/3 to 1/3 to create the full length of the median.